Hi, everybody. Um, this is going to be sort of an overview of the Ultra Gradebook. I've been working with it now 2 semesters, so I've got a handle on it. Maybe not an expert yet, but we're getting there. I'm sure a lot of people are kind of in the same boat where you're working with it and learning with it. So, Eric, I don't know if you wanted to say anything at the start before I jump in.
Yeah, just that I've been using the Ultra Gradebook since last fall of 2022, and it definitely took me some time to get used to it. It was, dramatically different from the Learn Original version, but now I feel pretty comfortable with it, and I actually really like, which we'll be showing you folks momentarily, the new flexible grading feature that they just added this past month, and that definitely makes a big difference. So, any case, yeah, take it away.
Yeah, I think the thing that we're learning with Ultra is there's new stuff coming every month. Like we get updates every month, so Gradebook is definitely one of those spots that they're consistently trying to improve, or depending on how you do things, sometimes you might not think it's an improvement. So it depends, how your Gradebook's set up, but they are kind of working on it
Yeah.
constantly. So.
Big time. They've
Uh,
got a lot of changes coming in the next, 3 to 6 months. So I think there's a lot of good stuff coming on the way.
all right. I am going to share my screen and we'll get started. If you want to ask questions, I think the best place while I'm doing the presentation will be in the chat. And we'll have plenty of time at the end for kind of specific questions. But if something pops up, if you want to put it in the chat, we've got plenty of folks from the TTC here to help out in the chat too. So I am just going to get into this course. This is just a test course that we set up. All right. And just kind of first, I guess, just to cover the total basics is where stuff in your gradebook will come from. So we've got multiple types of assessment in Blackboard. So if we go to I'm just going to open up this module. I've got a couple of things in here. When you go to the plus sign and choose create, most of the stuff will be, so you can create a test, an assignment, you can do graded discussions, journals, obviously test covers quizzes, exams, anything like that. So if you create any graded item, it will automatically create that grade entry also, a gradebook column. So I've already done a few of those, so let's pop in, and your gradebook will always kind of live in this top section here, and same for the students.
Weird, Jerry. I logged in as you.
Hi, Jerry. All right, so here are my gradebook columns. So the first thing that kind of struck me from the Ultra Gradebook is that the view is different than what I'm used to. So there's actually 2 views you can use in here. I call this one the list view. I'm not sure if that's what they call it. And then if you click over in this top left, it kind of looks a little bit more like we're used to. That's the grid view. So I can switch between, there's certain things that you can only do in the view you're in. For instance, in the list view is where you can move things around. So if you need to move this midterm column, you can click that little arrow and, oh, no, it's not gonna do it, there we go. So that ability to move things is not in the grid view. And then if you'll see when you're in the grid view, you actually have to, or the list view, you have to pop back and forth to see the students, and you're not actually seeing the student grade. So I typically keep mine in this grid view because that's more comfortable for me with my familiarity with Blackboard Original or Learn Original. So some kind of updates here. just to go over the interface. So each setup category, so there's categories that are created for you before you even come in here, and they all have a unique icon. So if you see, here's an assignment. The quiz is similar, but not exactly the same. There's the homework, has that little backpack icon, and then presentation. So there are setup icons for any of the the default categories. When you create a new category, which I'm going to show in a second, it kind of just has a generic icon for it. But if you do use any of those setup ones, you can kind of quickly tell which ones are which. Okay. Another thing that is different anyway is rather than the exclamation point that we had in Learn Original, now we have new submission pops up for any submitted item. And there's also the option of setting automatic zeros. So if a due date passes, you can have Blackboard just put a 0 in for anybody that did not submit to that assignment by the due date. Okay. All right. So we also, by default, the overall grade is not there yet, the column. So we used to have the weighted total and total grades set up. Now it's basically waiting for you to create that. So we've got this panel opens up the first time you come into your gradebook, and it'll stay there until you either hide it or actually set up the grades. Okay, so before I do that, let's just pretend I still have some columns to create. So maybe I want to do another homework. So I have homework 1 and homework 2. So if you hover in between 2 columns in the grid view, that's a place where you can add a item. So it'll put it in that place, kind of like Excel if you try to insert things between 2 columns in Excel. So I'm going to click that plus, and it gives me an option of a calculation or an item. So that's similar to the Learn Original, where you could add a calculated column where I might say, show me a homework average, or I can do a new item. So I wanted to do homework 3. Okay, and you're probably used to this if you're working in Ultra. It defaults to this top section, so you have to type that in. If you move off of that, it'll just keep that name where it said, new item 929. Okay, it also defaults to hidden, so if you wanted to show that. And then your other options here are points and categories. So these are the default categories that they give you. So I'm going to set homework, leave it at 100, and set up.
Tim, I'll just add that the due date there, if you decide to put in a due date, if you use the calendar tool, which is up in the top hand menu there, it's like 3 options over from Gradebook. It will put that due date into the calendar for your students, so they'll see it there.
Yep. And yeah, using that due date is what creates these automatic zeros. So if it is something that you're maybe a little more lenient on, I would be careful with the due dates, because yeah, it will automatically populate a 0 for everybody, as soon as that due date hits. So if you don't want to use that, you can turn that off. All right, so let's go into the settings. So I'm going to show how to add a new category before I show the overall grade setup. So up in this right-hand section here where it says settings, I'm going to click that. And there's a bunch of stuff in here. So this is where you could edit your grade schema if you ever did that. So that's just what Blackboard is interpreting an A, B, C, D, like what, if you enter an A, what is it going to calculate it as? Because Blackboard always uses numbers behind the scenes. There's also some things you can do here to inform your analytics section. So if you want to get alerts about students haven't logged in a certain amount of time, or a overall grade goes down below that, you can set those here. If you don't like the automatic zeros, this is where you could turn that off. I haven't decided. I think I like it, but it is kind of alarming, I think, to students. If they do fall behind a little bit, it will like really ping them and lower the grade. if you hide the overall grade, so you know where it said set up overall grade and there was an option to hide it. If you do hide it, this is where you can get back to that section. And then here are your grade categories. So I just wanted to add a new one. And let's see, maybe I'll call it participation.
Tim, I wanted to add too that you can't remove those built-in ones because I know we've had questions of that in the past too.
Correct, yeah, and you'll see when I go to the overall grade, all of these are going to show up even if we're not using them. And yeah, so there's that generic sort of image. So if you create a lot of these new categories, they're all going to have this image. There's nothing we can't really change that yet, so that might be an option to ask for in the future. Okay, and then if you are using course rubrics, they'll show up here for grading. And we do actually, this is kind of a new feature in September. You can have Blackboard create a rubric for you. So I did a very basic one here that just was straight from Blackboard, so it's very generic, but I'll show that in a second. All right, so I added a category and I'm going to close this out. And then I'm going to go back to set up my overall grade. So if I'm happy with all these categories, I can set that up now. Even if you don't have all of the columns set up yet, you can create a weighted category. I would say if you're going to use the points section, so actually this is a nice thing. It shows you an example of how you might do that. So if you've got, 500 point class, they're just saying, here's, if you've got 2 assignments, final, this is what it would look like. And then the weighted is the way I usually do mine, where I'll weight single categories. So everything within that category is equal to this amount of the grade. And then this part is worth the rest of that, and et cetera. I am not planning to get into it advanced. If you have a very complicated gradebook, there are ways to kind of custom code that formula. And I would say that would be a thing that we would work one-on-one with you on, just because it would be it's very specific to each person, and it is a little complicated. So I wasn't planning on getting into that today. That might be something we set up an appointment for. Okay, so if you were to do the points calculation, I would probably say you want to get everything into the gradebook first before you set that up. But with the weighted, you can use the categories to basically say the assignments category will be worth 40%. I've only created 2 of them, but there's ultimately going to be 5 because Blackboard's just taking the average of that category and assigning a grade to it. So whether there's 2 or 5, it will still kind of work the same way to create the grade. Okay. Click next. Okay. So by default, it will just take however many categories there are and average them out. So there's 10 categories in this particular class, even though a lot of them don't have anything in it, and it's saying 10% for each time. So I don't want to use discussion. I can just click this little icon right here, and I'm going to basically gray that out and say I'm not using that. And you can see it adjusted the other categories to be worth a little bit more. So same with journal. And participation I just created, I do want to use that one, so I'll keep that. Okay. And then, so now, it's just updating the integers here. So if this is going to be 20, you'll see as you do it, it's going to keep updating the rest. So maybe homework 15. All right, attendance, I want to actually edit in a second. And it will not let you save if it's not 100. That's why it keeps adjusting everything. So if I take things out and make it so it's not going to equal, let's see, I have to change everyone. Okay. No, off. All right, so if I say, Yeah, so you'll get a warning if your numbers don't add up. So that's why it's automatically trying to fix it for you as you go. You'll see as I changed each one, it also locked it. If you need to edit one of those, you just have to click that little padlock again. Let's get back to 100 here. Okay, so within this now, if you click this arrow, you can see which items are within each category. If for whatever reason you wanted to take one out, so if it was maybe, let's say this assignment with rubric was going to be graded separately, I didn't want it to be lumped in with the other assignments, I can click this chain here and it will take it out. So if you need to grade individual columns for a weight instead of something within a category, you can also just hit that to do that. So this will, let's see, now it's going to give me that error and make this 20. Okay, you can also within a category say I don't want to, even though this is an assignment within the assignment category, I don't want to count that one. So I can basically exempt that particular assignment from the weight, just because every column will need a category. So if you wanted to keep everything in the weight, then if there's something that needs to be an ungraded item, like I use a syllabus quiz at the start of my semester just to have students kind of practice using the quiz tool. But I don't necessarily want it to be treated the same as another quiz. I can just click that to exempt it. Okay. The other option here, which is, I hope, going to get a little more robust, is within each category, you can edit the calculation rules. Oops, there we go. And within that, right now, that really only lets you, if I enable that, choose to drop some scores within that category. So if you had 11 quizzes and you wanted to drop the lowest, you could choose that. Or you can choose to use only highest or lowest within the category. So those are only options right now. I'm hoping that they add some more to this particular panel, just because there is one thing missing where we used to be able to choose between equal or proportional weights within a category, and it's not giving us that choice now. So I believe there is one of our idea exchange submissions is to add that back. Okay.
Tim, did you see Donna's question? She asked, is it possible to filter the gradebook by category?
Yeah, we can. So I'll show the filter when we get back to the main gradebook setting here. The only other settings in this overall is this one right here, which is it says base calculation on points earned out of total graded points. So if you turn that off, I'm trying to remember which one we want. So this is where it used to say, basically, if they've submitted something, then it's, so if something doesn't have points yet, we're not going to count it towards the overall grade. So if you turn that off, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if you turn that off, basically the grades will show as lower than they are. Because it will be taking all of those other, so if they've only done 10% of the course, it's going to take the other 90% and give them a 0 if I turn this off.
Yeah, so it's going to make them look like they've got like a 10% and they're going to panic and try to drop your class.
What was the name of that setting in original? I'm already starting to forget.
You know what? It's funny. I was trying to think of it too. I was going to try to sneak in and look at a course while you were talking. So I'll go look while you continue.
Yeah, there was, so yeah, in the same section of original, there was a checkbox that did the same thing. They just changed the wording of it now. Okay, and then the last piece here is just how you want the students to see the grade. Do you want them to see it at all? If not, you can uncheck that. And then do you want them to see points, percentage, letter? Probably not complete, incomplete for this particular type of class, but if it was a pass-fail class, you could do that. Okay, so we do save.
I think it was calculate as a running total.
Running total, yep, that's it. All right. And then you'll see in Ultra, you've probably already noticed there's a lot of things that open up as a panel. And so I after I clicked save, I kind of expect it to go away, but it doesn't go away. I have to actually click this little X. The one thing that's hit me with the Gradebook is sometimes I'm working in here and then I click the X and that takes me out. And it's whenever you're on one of these top level tabs, you have to move back that way. All right. So I'm showing some Fs here because I haven't graded things yet. So the filter, that's another one of those things that is available in the grid view and not in the list view. So if we click the filter, there you go. You can say I only want to look at assignments. You can apply that. And then everything disappears and we can go back and click that again. I saw somewhere there was a tip from Blackboard that if you wanted to save one of these views, so we used to actually be able to save these filters, they're called smart views. What they're telling us to do now is kind of just save that URL that's showing up here. So you could save it as a, bookmark that, and that would be your assignments. I'm not sure that's a great idea, but if you wanted to keep a bunch of bookmarks on different smart views, you can do that now. So they took away that option to save the smart views inside the gradebook. But if we want to go back to our normal filter, can apply here. I do like this, that you can, if I wanted to look at just a single student, I can filter that easily here too. I don't have to go and do any reports or anything. Okay. All right, so let's get into the actual grading now. So if I go to a submission, so this is one, let me save that one. I will go into this one first. So when I click into that, it gives me these options. And now we have, so there's the word exception and then the word exemption. So exception would be if I want to say Matt has either extra time or it's okay that he missed the due date. He's going to have the ability to complete this. And this used to be, I'm trying to think of where that used to be. That used to be within the test settings. But now I can do it from the gradebook. So if there was a due date, this is only going to apply to Matt. So, if he was going to get one of those automatic zeros, I can go in and change that and say, you have through the weekend, you have an excuse. So here you go. Or I can allow for another attempt. If this was something that wasn't allowing unlimited attempts, I can give them another attempt. So those are exceptions. And you'll see those in here too. So any of these that you click on, you get that. There's also exemptions. Exemption would be, Matt's excuse was so good, you don't even have to do it. I don't care. You can skip this one. If I do that, you'll see the word exempt shows up now. And I can always go back and change that too. Okay, so let's actually click and look at the submission. So this is what Eric was talking about with the new flexible grading. So this was a test, and I actually generated this test with the new Blackboard AI, generative AI. So that's why I said, give me a question, or give me 10 questions about the gradebook.
I'll just add a quick plug that we're going to be doing a generative AI, or I should say, they call it the AI course design assistant in Blackboard that will show you how to auto create potential questions, rubrics, all these types of things. And Lee Forrest from our team will be heading that up along with Brendan and Harvey from Continuing Studies. So stay tuned for announcements on that, but it's pretty cool.
Yep. So this is our kind of new grading panel. And just, it's a little, like there's a lot of sections of it. So while you're grading, you can, if you see any of these arrows, you can use those to hide items or expand. So if I need, if I want to put feedback in, I can use that here. Click that little plus. I can also grade by student. So if I wanted to jump to another student, I can do that here. That's within this grade item. Or I can grade by question. So this had some fill in the blanks. It had some multiple choice and had an essay. So if I wanted to just go through, because Blackboard went through and graded the other items for me, but if I want to look at just the essays, I can jump there. And now I can grade all of the essays for this test on one page. So that was kind of one of the nice features that we saw with flexible grading. And yeah, you can see it generated a correct response for me too. I can go in and say 10, 10, maybe back at a 9. Who else? Oh, there you go. What it doesn't let me do, thought there was an option to give feedback to each question, but apparently it's only on the test, it's only overall feedback. Okay, and as you're going through, you can see it's saving this, so I don't have to like hop back and forth. You know, if I leave, it comes back. So, okay. So now let me go back to students. The other thing here is the option to go to needs grading. So if I finish, let me grade a few of these. So leave the, just need to go grade that last essay. Okay. There we go. So that grade popped up now. So if I go here to needs grading, then Stacy won't show up in that anymore. So you can easily kind of jump between all these things. Let me go to, so that was a test, but let me show a assignment because I think it's just a little bit different. There we go. Okay. Oh, you know what? So this is an assignment, but I generated it like a test. So that's kind of a different thing that you can do, that you can have an assignment where students are just submitting a document to you, or you can have them create an essay or answer some questions too. So what I wanted to show is the other thing. So I'm going to put a 10 here. So you'll see if I grade things up in this section here, it doesn't carry over to that. And that's because this one is taking the grade from the actual question that I asked. So if I put the 10 in there, now it'll pop up in there. Let me just delete that one. If this is not filled out and we go back to the grade, it'll show a grade, but it'll still show a submission because I didn't actually grade the submission itself. So you want to just be careful on assignments that you've actually gone in and graded the actual item rather than up in this right is an override grade. So it'll still show that submission even though I've now graded it. So if I do that, I think I did one here. So the third kind of piece of this that I want to show is I created a assignment that has a rubric on it. And from that panel now, besides feedback, I have the option to grade via rubric. So this was the very, kind of generic rubric that I created. So it's just either understand or do not understand. So if I wanted to grade by rubric, here, in this middle panel, which I did not submit, is would be the paper or the typing that the student did. Say, okay, you got a B for criteria 1. Let me through here. You can see it's updating that number as we go. All right. It's pretty good. So yeah, if you do use grading rubrics, this would be the way that you would go in and grade those in here. And again, yeah, you can add feedback if you wanted to. So some of your options for adding feedback is if you downloaded the file, made some notes on it and wanted to give it back, you could attach the file here. Math, image, you can actually record right in Blackboard. I'm not going to start a recording, but I'll show you what that would look like. There we go. So yeah, you can record either voice or voice and video to send to the students. So if you want to do a quick video feedback for your students, you could do that right here in the grading panel. Okay, and it would just interpret and put it right in there. You've got some other options here too, but I feel like probably attachment and recording are the ones that most people would do if it's other than text. Okay, and let me go back now. And so these grades are being posted. Let me enter a grade here and see. The other thing that you might see, and I'm forgetting why it's not showing up right now, is as you're grading things, you actually have the option to post the grades. So it's not necessarily, there we go. So these grades aren't necessarily going to show up to the students yet. It seems to me what the thinking from Blackboard is you would go through, okay, everybody has submitted this now. I'll go through and grade them all. And then when I've graded it, now I'm ready to post. So I don't want to post the grades as I'm doing it. So let me just put a few here. Yeah, if you do it in what I just did, which was click enter after. If I click off it, yeah, if you click enter as you're doing it here, it'll post automatically. If you're grading from the page, Stacy's, I'm not sure has posted yet. Nope, it did. So a test, I guess, will post automatically, but if it is assignment, discussion, stuff like that, it won't post until you actually click that. And you'll see that little message that you've done that. Let's see.
Tim, we had 2 questions in the chat.
Sure. Yeah, I think
First,
I'm just about done with my kind of what I had written down.
Okay.
So I think we can probably hop into open Q&A now.
Cool. First question was from Jerry. Can you show what the students will see in the gradebook? So I guess do student preview.
Yep. Yeah, so let me pop in there. And I think I gave this person 2 grades. Yep, so they'll now have gradebook right at the top, so we don't have to give them any special link or anything like we used to. Okay, so they get sort of that list view that we had. You can see it showing me, all right, like I got the automatic 0 for that one. So it's showing past due. And then, okay, so that assignment, I graded it, but I didn't post it yet. So I can check that I submitted, but I don't have the grade yet. So it just hasn't been shown there. And then, my overall grade would show up at the top here.
And next question I got here is, can you show a grading rubric attached to a discussion?
Yes, I might just have to make it real fast. I think I have one in my live class, but I don't really want to put that up while it's being recorded. Let me exit, save.
It's a good question while you're doing that. Karen had a question about, can you unpost? And I don't think you can unpost, but
you can change the grade. I have to check if that unposts when you change it.
I had an issue. So Karen, I had an issue the other night where I went to Padlet and for whatever reason, it was not showing me all of my students' posts. So I started grading their work and posted their grades and then, went back to Padlet a little while later. And all of a sudden, all of these posts started showing up that weren't there previously. So I was like horrified in that moment, but I said, okay, I've got to go back in and hide their grades for now so I can reassess their work. And I ended up hiding the entire column. That I could do, but I didn't see an option to do an unpost.
Okay. I might just have to pop in as my fake student account and post a discussion before we can actually see it. I don't know if it'll let
I can
me,
add something, Tim, if you want. But I don't think it was visible.
Oh, okay. So let's see if it's not letting me do it
Oh,
yet.
I see it now. Do you just want me to post anything?
Yeah. Then I can get into the gradebook and show that.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing, so you can see, since I did it quick, I didn't change that name. So as you're adding stuff, you'll always see it kind of pops that in, and it also makes the due date basically like 24 hours from the time that you make it. So definitely be careful as you're creating content that you look at that title and then the due date, because it will automatically put that stuff in. Okay, gradebook. Okay, here's Stacy's submission. And this icon right here is kind of the rubric icon. So when you see that, you'll know that it'll sort of open the rubric. If it doesn't have those little, I guess it's supposed to be a little table. So yeah, anything with the rubric will have these options. So whatever criteria you've had. So I can pop open a new rubric to show you kind of what it looks like with the creation. Again, this was one I just sort of said, generate me a default rubric, and it defaulted to 4x4. So 4 criteria and then 4 levels. And yeah, again, you just kind of check each one as you go. And then, yeah, it saved everything as we go to. Now that should not, did that post already? Okay, so that has not posted yet. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. So the ones that have been posted have that little green writing on them. If they haven't, so if you ever hear a student says something like, oh, I never saw my grade for that, you might have to go in and just post.
Hey, Tim, did you want to show in the list view how you can post all for a single assignment at once?
That's convenient.
Oh, there we go. I'm like, I was looking for that. It's in the list view. So yeah, like I said, I tend to stay in this grid view. And if you close out while you're in the grid view, it will stay in grid view next time you come in. So yeah, if you are looking, so if you graded a bunch of stuff, you can come through here. And I mean, right now I only have one, but I can just go through and it'll post every grade for that particular item. Now I'm trying to think if there's any, I don't think there's anything else within this view that's different. I should mention, if you ever want to download your gradebook, these are the icons to do that. So this one right here to download, and technically you can download it, enter grades, and then put it back in. That could be a little tricky, but it is an option in there. So you can upload your gradebook too. So as long as you keep it in the correct format as you're editing it on your computer, you can put it back in with all the grades.
So next question I had, Tim, from Karen. Unopened means the student didn't open it, which, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, like they never clicked on it at all.
Yeah. And then Tracy's got here, which current grade view do you recommend? Scores or the actual letter grade? Have you had any feedback from students? I mean, I've always done letter grade myself, so that's been my preference, but I know everybody's different on that. So
yeah, I think I'm technically, I've got percentage right now.
Yep.
Is the way I'm doing it. So I don't know if that's a little more And I mean, it's what they're ultimately going to get is the letter. So you might want to switch it to that at the end, but they might like to see, okay, they might want to know I have an 87 versus an 89. If you want to do percentage, that might be better for during the semester.
And can you show how to hide a column? Basically what I did the other day.
Yes, so we have discovered, so if I go in, all right, so these are ones I created inside here. So if I edit that, I can hide that column. So basically from the grid view, we're just clicking and choosing edit. From the list view, you just want to, instead of clicking on the name, you're going to click the ellipses over here to edit. So this one, because that was a test that's actually in my content area, if I hide it here, the way it's working now, it will also, I'll show you if I go back to content. So that also got hidden here. And we discovered that the other day because I could not get the certain thing to show up only in the gradebook. I didn't want things to, I wanted something to be hidden on the content area, not in the gradebook. So if you use release conditions, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, and then set a date and time.
Yeah.
So I can say hide, hide this after, let's say yesterday. Oop,
Donna just asked kind of a related question, which was, can you automatically hide all columns that don't currently have grades? You can't, but you could set the release condition so that it doesn't show up to students until a certain day. So that would work because they wouldn't see it in the grade book.
Yeah, so if you want it to stay in the gradebook and be hidden here, you can basically use this setting to hide it and just make sure this is set to show also. Yeah, I'm trying to think of if it's the opposite, Eric, if you want it to be hidden in the gradebook but show on the content area. I'm not sure if that's currently, is that currently possible?
I don't think so. I think we were testing it.
Yeah.
If you hide something in the content area, it's going
it'll be hidden in the gradebook too. Right.
There were definitely some suggestions in the anthology idea exchange, though, I think.
Yes, that's correct, Karen. You can also manually post grades when you set up the assignment.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah. I want to see somebody stump you. You're like the grade master.
I don't feel like it yet. This has been, it's been a big change from the from original.
Original, yeah. It doesn't look like it. If obviously if you folks do have questions along the way, just email us at ttc@bridgew.edu, and we are glad to give you a hand. You can also drop into our daily office hours, and we can help you there too. But yeah, like I said earlier, there are a lot more updates and changes and improvements coming. So stay tuned for that. You folks should see, you've probably already seen this, but when you log into Ultra, if there are new updates, they pop up on your screen. So you see them right away. But Jocelyn, I think, has a question.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't type fast enough. Sorry, I arrived late, and if you already covered this, I apologize. I am going to be offering extra credit, but I have weighted grades in my grade book. How can I add an extra credit that's going to affect the overall grade without affecting the different weights? Is there a way to do that?
So the way that we've had to do it so far is to use the advanced kind of custom formula.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one that usually we're going to want to work one-on-one with you to figure out how to get it to work. Because yeah, I know in within a test you can say, all right, this particular question is extra credit.
Right.
But in the grade book, there isn't a thing to say designate extra credit right now.
Right. That's what I've been seeing.
Yeah, you kind of have to create some calculated columns and then add things together. And we've gotten it to work pretty much. So,
Okay.
I'm sure we can do it. It's just, yeah, it's a little tricky.
Yeah. Is there a category I can make that's extra credit that I can make the weight be more like 105% and the extra credit is worth 5%? Is that possibility?
Would your extra credit be just on top of the total?
So yes, that's pretty much what it is. Because I have like, quizzes and projects and things like that.
So
but
you could just create a calculated column and then add the overall grade plus whatever the extra credit is. Like you just have a manually create a column for the extra credit and then have a calculated column that adds those two together. That wouldn't be too difficult.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
that's probably the easiest way to do it if that works for you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll play with that a little bit. Thank you. Yeah.
I was going to say, to Tim's point, if you'd like us to give you a hand one-on-one to get that into your gradebook, we can do that.
Great. Yeah, I'll come to those office hours. I've already been, so it's been really
Cool.
helpful. Thanks.
Awesome. Sounds good.